is on getting and giving, which is really receiving and giving. And receiving and giving are about living abundantly. Abundantly. We are meant to be living abundantly. And this was one of the messages that Christ shared in his ministry. He said, I came not that they would have life, because they already had life. He said, I came that they might have it abundantly. And we have life abundantly by following the other principle that Christ taught, which is God is in heaven, heaven is within. Christ was teaching that it is that within us that does for us, through us, as us. The Spirit is within us. And when we understand that, that's how we live abundantly, okay? Because we understand there's something working through us, for us, as us. So we receive and we give because of what we are. That we're an infinite being in a body. We're an infinite being in a body. Abundance consciousness is our divine nature, how we are meant to be living. That is why abundance consciousness feels good, because it's in alignment with who we really are as an infinite being in a body. Lack consciousness is not in alignment with who we really are. That's why it feels terrible, because we're not supposed to be in lack consciousness. And when I'm talking about abundance and lack, I'm actually not talking about money. Although when we think abundance, we think money. But you know, the lottery right now is up to like $1 billion, right? 1.6. That's crazy, like $1 billion. But you know, we've all heard the stories that most lottery winners who win millions of dollars, within just a few years, they managed to spend all of it. Because they may have had a lot of money, but they didn't have abundance consciousness to manage the money, so they had to spend it all to get back into a consciousness where they were comfortable. So that's what abundance consciousness is. Deepak Chopra said in his book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, the universe operates through dynamic exchange, receiving and giving. That's the dynamic exchange. Giving and receiving are different aspects of the flow of energy in the universe. And in our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the abundance of the universe circulating in our lives. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about how there's a dynamic of giving and receiving, why it's energy that we're talking about, and how are we supposed to give what we seek. Because really, if we seek a beach house, why would we give somebody a beach house to receive a beach house, right? It's about energy. Now, the words affluence and currency, they both have the same root meaning, which is flow. So this dynamic exchange is a flow. Receiving and giving keep energy in motion. They keep the abundance in motion, so it keeps circulating through our lives. But a lot of us, just through our teachings and how we're raised, we get this idea that we're giving something that we have, which means we'll have less when we give it. If we give money, then we'll have less money because we gave something. If we give our time, well, then we've just given away some of our time. But this is actually lack consciousness. Because the universe operates on a dynamic exchange, we are actually giving from the universe, not our personal stuff. Though our personal stuff is a reflection and it represents our consciousness, when we give with abundance consciousness, whatever we're giving, time, talents, money, that is always easily replaced, because in abundance consciousness, we know we're pulling from the universe, giving through our lives out to the universe again, right? Because we're all one, we're all an extension of the universe. So we're pulling from the universe and giving through our lives. Now, if we're giving with lack consciousness, we feel like we're pulling from our stuff instead of the universe. We feel like we're pulling from a limited supply. So when we are in abundance consciousness, when we are really embodying abundance consciousness, we understand and we feel that there's that within that is guiding us. There's that within in which everything we want comes through us for us and as us. It works through us, for us, as us. And in abundance consciousness, we have this understanding that we are receiving from the universe and we're giving back to the universe. And it's because of dynamic exchange. Now, everything that happens in our life every day is actually an exchange of this energy. And that happens through all of our activities. So we're receiving all throughout the day through the activities we engage in, and we're giving all throughout the day through the activities we engage in. So when we're giving our time and our talents at work, right? What projects are we working on? What are we accomplishing? What are we doing for our job every day? We're giving when we manage our household. How are we giving to our family, to our pets, right? How are we taking care of keeping the household running? We give through sacred service, through centers like this or through other volunteer organizations. When we receive, it also shows up as an activity. We might ask somebody to help out with the household. We might ask someone to run to the grocery store or to cook some meals or to clean up after the dogs. We receive that help. We might take time out for rest and rejuvenation for ourselves and maybe do some reading or watch a bit of Netflix. Maybe we'll get a chiropractic adjustment or a massage. And we're receiving nurturing for our own well-being. Now, with abundance consciousness, we understand how we're getting our needs met. That there's something working through us, for us, as us. So it's easier to give and receive when we understand that it's not coming from our personal stores and will never be replaced. Okay, abundance consciousness allows us to do that. But in lack consciousness, we're not going to get it. And we're going to worry about what we give out. We'll worry about our time. We'll worry about our talents. We'll worry about our money. How much of that are we giving out? And in lack consciousness, we have this mistaken idea of how we are provided for. Now we might think it's through luck we'll get what we need, or maybe we have to just work really, really, really hard, or maybe we can manipulate somebody into doing something for us, or somebody will rescue us. Now there's this other teaching that Christ shared, and I have to admit, at first, I'm like, well, what is he saying? But he's talking about lack and need and worrying about how we'll get what we need. And he says, and this is kind of paraphrased, observe the birds of the sky. They're not worried about what to eat or getting shelter. Your Father in heaven feeds them. Why do you worry about clothing? The flowers don't worry about clothing. Look how majestically they are adorned in the fields. The Father did all this for them. And the Father has more care for you. You of little faith? So why would you say, what will I wear? What will I eat? What will I drink? Do not go after worldly possessions. Do not seek after these things. Seek first the kingdom, and then all things will be added. Now, at first I just thought this is a terrible metaphor. This is a terrible metaphor. To me, it sounded like, oh, if you worry about all this worldly stuff, then you're not a spiritual person. And I was kind of raised with that, right? We had that in our teaching growing up, didn't we? Right? It's like, don't worry about having stuff. If you're supposed to get that stuff, God will give it to you, magically. Out of the ethers, it'll appear in your backyard. And if it didn't, well, then God didn't want you to have it. But see, we're not birds, and we're not flowers. Though we are emanations from the same source energy, we are creation. We all created and come from the same thing. But see, flowers and birds do what they're programmed to do. They surrender to what it is they are meant to create. You will not see an acorn packing up his little bags and heading off to LA to become a drummer. An acorn surrenders to the oak tree and everything that it needs to be that mighty oak tree. Even though the oak tree is thousands of times bigger than that wee little acorn, everything that tiny acorn needs to create that massive tree is already in it. It's already in it. So Christ wasn't saying, well, let God do all the work, and if you're meant to have it, you'll have it. Christ wasn't saying, sit around and wait for stuff to come to you. He said, seek first your divinity. And then you'll know what you need to do. But you have to surrender to the divinity. Okay, the acorn surrendered to its truth. We have to surrender to our truth too. When we understand that we are divine in nature, that we are divine walking around in a body, we understand this idea of how things come through us, for us, as us. That it's never about sitting around and waiting, but it is about adjusting our mindset from giving and receiving stuff to giving and receiving energy. And the universe starts off by giving us something. It gives us ideas, inspiration, and divine guidance, divine direction. In our prosperity class, we learned Mary Morrissey calls ideas the currency of the universe. The currency of the universe. Why? Because ideas and inspirations guide us to the next thing we're supposed to be doing. Ideas and inspiration are that inside of us, that thing that knows what to do and how to do it and will compel us to, and compels us to act on what it knows. So we act on those ideas and inspirations. We get the next thing to do, the divine direction, right? The next inspiration. What is that next thing I do? So this is all an exchange of energy. All of the receiving is an exchange of energy. Giving is an exchange of energy. However, we filter everything that we receive through our mental tendencies. And we give everything we give through our mental tendencies. And Ernest Holmes says our mental tendency is the way we think about things when we're not thinking how we think about things. It is the reactions we have to situations and events when we're not consciously participating in a response. It's being on autopilot. That's our mental tendency, being on autopilot. Now, if we've really been working this, hopefully we can get our autopilot up to joy, bliss, enthusiasm, right? I'm not there yet. So we're receiving, and then we're giving out through a filter. So it's not about how we receive, or it's not about what we're receiving or what we're giving. It's how we're receiving and how we're giving. Because, we can give generously with a heavy lack consciousness and experience a lot of suffering with that giving. So we can still give, but we're doing it with lack consciousness. Deepak Chopra said, also from the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, if through the act of giving you feel you have lost something, then the gift is not truly given, and it will not cause increase. So if we feel lack while we are giving, even if we are giving, we will never experience increase in our lives because of the lack consciousness. So what's happening is this is about energy again. So every time we give, there's an energy behind it. Every time we receive, there's an energy behind it because of this mental tendency filter. So I talked about how we give through work. So are we going to work? And are we giving by saying, "Guy, I am so lucky I have this amazing job. I'm so glad I got into this area. I love that I hit the floor running every day," right? When I wake up, I hit the floor running. Are we feeling that enthusiasm? Or are we going into work and thinking, "God, I hate this job. Man, my coworkers are lazy. And I'm only here because of the insurance. And oh wait, that's not so great anymore. But I can't afford to quit." So are we going to work? What is that energy of giving doing? Is it a resentment, obligation, frustration energy? Or is it joyfulness and happiness and appreciation? That's what we're giving, and that's what we're getting. Whatever that feeling is. And this will show our mental tendency. So if we think about how do we give most of the time? How are we feeling? Because remember, all day long, every activity is a giving activity or a getting activity. But how do we feel in that activity? This shows us our mental tendency. Because we know, do we spend the majority of the day feeling good about everything we did? Or do we spend the majority of the day feeling stressed about everything we did? Okay, feeling overwhelmed by everything we did. That is the energy that will be circulating in our lives. But it's important for us to know this. So it's good that lack consciousness feels so bad, because we know when we feel bad. But see, once we know we're feeling bad about something, we can take the steps to change it. We can take the steps to change it. Let's do an affirmation together. I live in a universe, that acts on dynamic exchange. So, as I give, I have to receive. Isn't that awesome? As I give, I have to receive. So how does this happen? There's a law of physics that explains this that I so love. And that law is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So let's say that I had a ball, and I was going to throw the ball to Doris. Doris would catch the ball. Now, there's an equal reaction. I throw a ball, and she catches a ball. She doesn't catch a pie. She does not catch a puppy. She catches whatever I've thrown, the ball. It's also equal in that if I toss the ball to her, she catches the ball at the same velocity that I tossed it. I don't toss a ball and it arrives at Doris at 150 miles an hour, like I'm a super pitcher or something, right? It doesn't do that. It has to be equal. Now, it's opposite in that I threw the ball and she caught the ball. I gave the ball and she received the ball. Equal, opposite. This is how, as we give, so do I receive. As we give, so do I receive. And this is why we want to give what we want to receive. Because again, it's an energy thing. So we give what we want, but again, it's not about physical stuff. It's not about that house at the beach, giving that. What we want to do is look at, what is it that we want? What is it that we're seeking? What are we seeking? Now, if I was going to choose to live at the beach, the reason I would choose to live at the beach would be, when I'm there, I do feel like this really strong sense of well-being. And listening to the ocean, it feels very nurturing, and I actually will feel sad when I drive away. And I don't know if it's all the water, all the negative ions maybe, help me feel so good, but my sinuses feel amazing. So really what I'm loving about the beach is the feeling of well-being and the feeling of peace that I have while I'm there. And our feelings are an energy thing. Now, if I went to the beach and instead I got a migraine because I was so aggravated over the heavy-duty traffic and the 45 minutes it takes to go through one intersection in Santa Monica, so I'm never going back there in my whole life, I wouldn't want to go back. I wouldn't want to live there because my feelings would be overwhelmed, stress, agitation, frustration. So why would I want to live there? So we want something because of how it makes us feel. So anything we're seeking, there's a reason why we're seeking. So this is why we're giving what we want. But how do we give? Like, how would I give well-being and peace? How do we do that in our lives? Remember, every day we're taking all these actions. We're doing giving actions and we're doing receiving actions. So, like for instance, peace. Let's say I think we'd all like to enjoy peace, right? How would we take actions during the day with peace? How are we receiving with peace? How are we giving with peace? Well, we really want to spend the day like paying attention, being conscious of all the actions that we take throughout the day. And I've actually done this, like taken like 3 days and written down every action that I've taken, whether it's sweeping up or chasing the dog or folding laundry or watching Netflix. I've listed every action and then every emotion that I had with it. And that's what that will help us find out our mental tendencies too. But then what we have to do is we have to learn to do things that we do every day. We have to learn to do those with peace, by feeling peace when we're doing that. Now, sometimes this means doing things differently. Like one thing I do differently that really adds to my well-being is I've started using Instacart and having groceries delivered to my house. I mean, that's really nice, because that's when I order all the heavy stuff, like the dog food and the laundry detergent, right? All the cases of water. Like, I have Instacart do that, and I don't have to worry about it. But that gives me a feeling of well-being and peace to have that, to change that action. So I'm not rushing off to the store, right? And then feeling stressed out because I had to do that. So we want to know, what is it we're seeking? How can we take that, make that feeling an action in our lives? How do we bring that into all of our actions? We want abundance, we give abundance. We want love, we give love. Now the other thing about this is that whatever it is we're seeking, we're feeling it in our body. So when I do something with peace, I'm feeling peace. And if I do something with another person, I'm feeling peace, and I'm also sharing peace with them, but they're not getting all the peace. I'm getting the peace, right? Because I'm feeling it. We don't give it away. I mean, we share it, but we're not giving it away. We don't lose it. This is why you can watch the sad puppy commercial about the animal shelters on TV, and you feel an overwhelming compassion. Now, you didn't actually give the compassion to the dog, right? The dog's not even here. Energetically, you're spreading compassion, but you generated the feeling, so then you experience the feeling. Now, because the universe responds to us through our feelings, the feelings we generate the most are the feelings we're going to experience the most. But see, the universe brings to us, through the law of attraction, more situations then that will help us generate that feeling. So if I was like super serious about the house at the beach, by constantly generating well-being and peace, I would eventually get to that house at the beach. But I do something that a lot of people do, which is I say what I want, but I feel something different. So I may say, oh yeah, living at the beach would be great. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, traffic there is terrible. Who would want to live at the beach? And it's so expensive. My GT's Lavender Love was like 75 cents more at some crazy health food store down there than it is here. So there's the lack. I say abundance, I feel lack. All right, so we have to be really clear on what it is we want, so we know the feeling that we're after and all of those desired outcomes we're seeking to have in our lives. And we start implementing those now, because we have to be what it is we want to be. It's not out there and we're waiting to receive it to have this desired outcome in our life. We have to be it in order to have it in our life. So when we're really clear about the feeling behind all of our desired outcomes, we're being it. We're being it. And then, whatever it is we're seeking to bring into the light, that house at the beach, when we're being what it is we want, being well-being, being peace, then we are changing our consciousness to receive divine inspiration, to receive the guidance that will get us closer to that house at the beach. We're taking actions, going through the filter of well-being and peace instead of lack. We're taking actions then based on abundance consciousness. So that's what happens when we start paying attention to how we're giving and how we're receiving in this world. So, in closing, I want to just remind all of us that if we're in lack consciousness, we clog up this flow of energy with a bunch of stuff we don't want. Well, energy's still moving. I used to love the metaphor of clogging and stopping the flow of energy, but we never stop the flow of energy. We just keep bringing more mucky energy in that we don't want. It's in constant motion. And we want to remember three things. First is that the universe operates on dynamic exchange, and this exchange is energetic, that our lives are always energy in motion, all of our activities are the way we give and receive, and how we give and receive. Because we give through the filter of our mental tendencies, which is number 2. We give through the filter of our mental tendencies. So if we're giving and it doesn't feel good, there's a lack, tendency, program running in there, trying to run our lives. Let's affirm, as I give, I have to receive.
I have to receive.
Yes. And then 3, We give what we want to receive. We're not giving the thing we want, but we're giving the feeling we want, the feeling of that desired outcome. So we're giving from love, peace, joy, whatever that feeling is for you. And that helps us stay in that positive flow of the good flow, the highest good for us flow. Ernest Holmes said, God is life, and life gives itself to us. So all of this creative energy is always offering itself to us, always giving itself through us, for us, as us. There's no shortage of this stuff. There's no shortage of the substance to make stuff in our lives. No shortage. But he goes on to say, it doesn't give some of itself, it gives all of itself. So there's so much. There's an infinite supply of this good stuff available to us. But the gift without a receiver cannot complete itself in the individual life. How are we receiving that gift? How are we being that gift? Remember, we receive and we give, and we live in abundance because that's what we are. That's what we are meant to be doing. That is in our divine